Hello everyone, welcome to this Learning TradeStation series. Today's topic is news, time and sales, research, browser, and ticker bar. So as you can tell, we have a lot of topics to cover. It's a collection of all different types of data tools in TradeStation. The benefit of having access to all these tools could probably benefit your trading immensely. So let's get started. We're going to talk about things such as creating filters in news, how to use the time and sales window, how to access the internet, how to access fundamental data using the research window, and also how you can take advantage of the TradeStation Ticker Bar if you haven't seen it already. Just wanted to go over this important disclosure. Every symbol and idea that we talk about here today is for demonstration purposes only. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. It should only be done with risk capital. I am going to share two links that go into more detail about those disclosures, and they're also going to be available on the TradeStation website. I'm going to switch over here to my TradeStation platform, and we're going to start off with the news window. So in the apps panel of TradeStation, you're going to find a news button right here. I'm going to click on news. And the first thing that pops up when you open up the news app is this news filter, because it's going to ask you what type of news do you want to receive. There's different ways in which you can get news in TradeStation. You can do all headlines, and if you select that, you're going to get every single article that gets supplied by our news provider. You can do a filter by symbol where you type in Cisco, for example, which is the symbol that is displayed there, and you only get articles where Cisco is the main topic or Cisco is mentioned in the article that is being transmitted. Or you can do a symbol list. The symbol list is interesting because you create a list of symbols, and only the articles that mention that symbol will also be offered to you. Or you can do a keyword search and say, well, I want to see news articles on oil. And then you get all these news articles that are, on oil. We're going to create each one of them, and you're going to see how you can pretty much populate the news windows or different filters that you can look at in one location. So let's start off with all headlines. I'm just going to select all headlines, click OK, and I'm going to resize this window so that it fills more of the screen. Let me resize it. You can see how the news window is divided in three panels. You have this white box at the bottom, which is where you're going to see the article displayed. The top panel over here, you're going to see the different news articles that are coming in the data stream. And then over here on the left, there's a box for filters. And as you can see, this is the all headlines filter that we just created. These panels can be resized, which is what I'm going to do right here, just to give it a little bit more space. The columns up here can also be resized, and I like that because I can see the whole article's title. And here you have the date and the time that this article was submitted to the news service. You can see how the source is Benzinga, which is our news provider. Okay, and we're going to look at different ways in which you can filter those providers even further. But here from the headlines, I can just click on the headline, and I can see the article show up on the screen. What I'm going to do right here on my news window is to increase the font size. It may be a little bit too small on your screen, so let's go ahead and do that first. And you can do that on your own TradeStation if you feel that the news window is showing you the font too small. I'm going to go to Settings, and I'm going to click on Window. In the Window menu, I'm just going to go to the Font tab, and you have font for news filters, for the headlines, and for the story text. So for the news filters, I want the font to be bold and maybe 12. For the headlines, I want that to be bold and 12. Why not? And the story text will have the same thing, bold and 12. I'm going to set that as the default so that every time that I open up a news window, it has the same settings, and I'm just going to click OK. All right, so we have an all headlines filter up here. You can see how the count is up to 25. I can right click right here in this filter box at the top left, and I can say search news. When I go to search news, I get back to this news filter, and I can say show me news for, let's say, Apple. And I just click OK. One thing that you can do here on the news window is that you can also disable the story pane. Right here under settings, you have access to your columns. You also have access to window, which we already visited. That's where you change the font size and the style. But here you can disable the story pane that appears at the bottom of the news window. If you do that, you'll just get the filter on the left-hand side, and you'll also get the news article here or the headings. So if you want to get the article per se, let's say that you want to bring it up because it just catches your attention, just double-click on the headline, and it opens up a window for you showing you the news article. So let me go back to my settings and go to my story pane, and that's where I get my article. Over here on the settings tab, you also have access to hotkeys. If I go to the data tab, you can search for news again. So I did say that you can do a symbol list. If I go over here to a symbol list, let me show you because this is something really interesting. I can add a list from the lists that are already supplied by TradeStation. So if I click here and add list, I have access to custom symbol lists. So you can have, if you have created a custom symbol list, you can go here and select a list for which you want to receive news. We have some TradeStation lists that are pre-packaged and included in the platform. So for example, if I open up my index components right here and I go to my Dow Jones, I can say I want to get news only on the stocks that make up the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So I can double click just to see what stocks are part of that group of symbols. And when I click OK, it'll add my symbols right here on the screen. Now, I may not need symbols on the actual index itself. You can see on the very top, the very first symbol is $INDU. So I'm just going to highlight it and click on Remove here so that it removes it from the list. I just need news articles on the companies that make up the Dow Jones. And if you look at right here at the top, you have the name is just a list of the very first symbols that appear on the list. I can customize that. I can say, this is the Dow 30. Once I do that, and I click OK, you can see how the Dow 30 appears right here as a filter category, and I'm only getting news articles that are part or that belong to any of the companies that make up the Dow Jones Industrial. Let me go ahead and click on the data and search news. Here you have tabs for providers. You can see that we have access to Benzinga and Context News. Those are by default. And then if I go to providers and I say, or uncheck this option that says display news for all available providers, now I have the ability to select Benzinga over here, highlighted, and click on edit. Because as it is, you're getting everything. You're getting all categories and all sources. But if I come over here and I click on edit, I have the ability to say, all right, it's showing all categories here, but if I want to customize this, so if you want to filter by categories, if you feel that you're getting a lot of news that don't really matter to you, you go to categories and select custom, and then you click on add over here to the right. And then you have different categories that you can select. So if you want to get news articles on commodities, or you want to get news on contracts or dividends or earnings, you know, you have all these different categories and you can add them. So let's say that we want earnings. I want to say, let's see if we can do a multiple collection here. I can. So dividends, earnings, and that's it. I'm going to click OK, and I can add those two categories to my screen. I'm just going to click OK here, and then OK. So notice that the articles were reduced because now we are just wanting news articles that are pertaining to dividends and earnings. So it's interesting how you can use this news window and modify it so that it's filtered in the way that you want. One thing that you can do as well is set up an alert. So sometimes you set up or open up a news window in a workspace, but you're not looking at it all the time, right? So you can do the following. You can right-click on the news filter. It's going to be in the search news. So in the search news window, notice that you have an alerts tab, and I can say enable the alert. So by doing that, you are enabling the alert on the actual filter category, and then you can set up or receive a sound or a pop-up window letting you know that there's a new article coming into the news window. Okay. Perfect. So once you click OK, you can see that next to the filter name, there's a little bell right here on the top left letting you know that there's an alert enabled for this window. One thing that I like to do as well is if you have a watch list. For example, let's say that I go to my apps and I go to my radar screen. All right, I'm gonna arrange the windows. So now I have my radar screen on the left and I have my news on the right. I can insert a list of symbols here. Let's choose the Dow 30. There they are. And I can link the two windows together. So if I click on the symbol linking for my radar screen and I click on the linking button for my news window, now I can click on any of the symbols in my watch list and have the news window update. So if I want to get news on ExxonMobil, I just click it and you can see that XOM shows up right here and I have the list of articles that are coming in. If I go to Format, Search News, and I go to Providers, remember that the providers are specific to each one of the filters that appear here. All right. Perfect. So it's a very simple window to use. I mean, there's not much to it, but I just wanted to tell you or let you know that there is a way for you to get news articles right here in TradeStation without having to leave the platform. All right. Let's go ahead and switch to another one of the apps here in TradeStation, which is the Time and Sales. So let me open up a new workspace. And in the Apps panel, I'm going to click on Time and Sales. And Time and Sales will show up. This is Time and Sales on XOM, which is the last symbol that I was looking at. Let me go ahead and change the font again. I'm going to go to Settings and click on Window, go to Font, and I'm going to make the font a bold 12. All right, so that's better on the screen. You can see how this is a chronological sequence of all the trades that occur for ExxonMobil. And for every symbol that you load, you're going to see exactly that, a chronological sequence of every single trade. If I switch the symbol, and you can use the same keyboard command that you use on any other window in TradeStation. So if I want to change this symbol to, let's say, Microsoft, I just type it in. You can see how the command line shows up right there in the middle where you can see the symbol Microsoft. And as soon as I hit enter, it loads the trading activity for Microsoft. Now this is just trade by trade, everything that's happening to Microsoft. There's a couple things that you can turn on this particular window. If you go to Settings, you can change the columns, you can change the symbol, and you can format the window. But if you go to the Data tab right here, you also have the ability to turn on bids and asks. So if on top of the trades, you also want to see the change in bid and ask, you can just come here to Data, select Bids, go here and select Asks. So that's going to give you everything. Everything that happens on Microsoft is being transmitted here, which is pretty fast. You know, the market moves pretty fast. There's hundreds and hundreds of different bids and asks changes every single minute, and you're going to see everything that's happening here. So let's go ahead and remove the bid and ask for a moment because I want to show you something additional that I want to point out. So let me go to Data, remove the bid and ask information, and you can see that each one of the rows here has a particular color because they're being color coded based on where the trade occurs. If you see a green row, let me go up a little bit. Once you see, if you scroll all the way to the top, the time and sales will continuously scroll down, and sometimes it's hard to follow the information. But as soon as you scroll down a little bit, the time and sales stops, and the information will be loaded right here to the top. It'll give you an opportunity to look at some specific information. So you can see that any trade that occurs at the asking price, some people call that a buying transaction because it's filled at the ask, it's colored green. And anything that happens at the bid, it's colored red. Sometimes you're gonna get trades that are out of sequence, and those are the ones that are colored in yellow. You know, sometimes the exchange itself does not provide us the data in a sequence, so it's an out of sequence trade. It didn't really happen at that specific time. However, it does get reported. But over here in the condition, it does tell you also where the trade occurred. Was it at the bid? Was it between the bid and the asks? You get that information there as well. That's how the time and sales is built. every row will be color-coded. Now, sometimes you may not like that functionality because it's distracting. A lot of users don't like all these colors flashing on the screen. One other thing that it's also part of the time and sales is how the prices are going to be shaded in light gray or dark gray. Now, when you see a price shaded in light gray, it's because it's an uptick. And whenever you see the price highlighted in a dark gray, it's because it's a downtick. And you can see how it changes in price. You know, whenever you have dark, it's because the prices are going down. If there's no shading, it's because the price is equal to the previous trades. So that's when you don't see any shading, it's because the prices are maintaining themselves at the same level. But if you see light gray, it's going up. If you see dark gray, it's going up. There's a lot of information going on here. You can disable that if you just want straight information. I'm going to go to the Settings tab and go to the Window menu. Right here in the Window menu, you have a Color tab. And in Color, you can see that conditions are enabled. That's a color based on condition. And you can see the conditions in here, above ask, at bid, and so forth. And you can check the color to see which color corresponds to which. But if I disable that and I click OK, you can see that it removes, you know, the green and the red. It didn't get rid of the orange because that's not a condition of where the price fell. It's more like an out of sequence condition. So if I go to the settings again and I go to Window, I also have the ability to go to subtypes, and that's the subtype that we're talking about. See, if I scroll down, you can see how there's an out of sequence here. So if I disable that too, and I click OK, now the orange is gone. Now if you want to take it one step further, and you want to get rid of that shading right there and behind the price, go to Settings, Window, and that would be the trend. I can disable the trend, click OK, and that disables that as well, and you just see straight white over black. Some users like this. Some users like to have the colors because it separates, you know, the downticks from the upticks. That's up to you. I'm going to go back to Settings, Window again, go to Color, and I'm just going to enable conditions, enable subtypes, and enable trend. And you can set as default or anything else if you want to. One thing that I like to do on the time and sales is to filter out small trades. If you look at the size column right here, and this is for ExxonMobil, there's a lot of 100 share trades. It's a lot of 50, 22, 1 share. There's a lot of small trades that increase the speed of this time and sales. What if I wanted to filter out, you know, any trade that is a small size? I can go to the Settings tab here, and I can go to Symbol. So it's Settings, go to Symbol, and here you have a way of filtering out some of the information that you don't want to see. First of all, I can come here where it says Display. It's showing all trades, but I want to see Show Trades that are greater or equal to 500. Anything higher than 500 shares. I click OK. And you see how this slows down a little bit. You don't see all those 150 share, but you see trades that are coming in that are higher than 500. You can take this to a higher filtering size if you want to see when the big players are submitting their trades by going back to Settings, going to Symbol, and let's say I want to see trades that are above 5,000 shares. I click OK, and it doesn't show anything. Why doesn't it show anything? Hasn't there been any trades higher than 5,000 shares? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. If I go to Settings and I go to Symbol, and this is something that you're going to have to play around with, because when you come over here, it's only showing you the last 300 ticks or the last 300 trades. So by increasing the filter to 5,000, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been any trades of 5,000 shares. It just means that in the last 300 trades of ExxonMobil, there hasn't been a trade of 5,000 shares. So what do we do here? I can say, well, show me the last 5 minutes then. When I click OK, it doesn't show anything. Let me go back in there. Settings, Symbol. I can say, oh, one other thing. If you do the last 5 minutes, in the last 5 minutes, there could have been more than 1,000. See at the bottom here, maximum number of items to display. I've set it to 1,000. which is small, 1,000 trades. Maybe in those last 1,000 trades, there hasn't been any 5,000 size. So let me go ahead and increase that to, I believe the maximum here is 10,000. So I'm going to increase it to 100,000 because I think it tells me what the limitation is. And it does tell me enter an integer between 1 and 10,000. Let me go ahead and remove a 0, and I'm just going to leave it at 10,000, and I'm just going to set it as a default. When I click OK, still no trades. So I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go back to symbol. This is the last 5 minutes. Let's see if I do the entire day. And if you do the entire day, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get the entire day. This is a window that is supposed to give you a real-time chronological sequence of all the trades. But let's do the entire day, 10,000 trades, greater than 5,000. Click OK. This is waiting for data. It's trying to load the data from the server, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and leave that running for a moment, and you can go to apps and open up another time and sales just in case. All right, so one thing we can do here is settings, symbol. Let's do show trades greater than 1,000. And that doesn't show anything. Okay, so let's see. Settings, symbol. I'm going to do the entire day. Click OK. Okay, so we have some trades here that are above 1,000 shares, and you can see that it goes back to 2/19/29. Let me go here to settings and go to symbol. So we have the maximum, which is set to 10,000. We have show me trades greater than 1,000, and then we have entire day. This is what happens. The time and sales is going to go out to the server, and it's going to try to load what is called entire day. But most likely for symbols like ExxonMobil, there's more than 10,000 trades that are occurring in a day. And that's probably the reason why it's not giving you all the day. So this is the maximum number of items the time and sales can display. If I remove the filtering here and I say show all trades and I click OK, it's going to load everything here on my time and sales. And if I scroll all the way to the first item that was entered, you can see that it goes back to 2 p.m. 2:17 p.m. So it only loads about 20 minutes of data, and that's 10,000 items of information that the time and sales can hold. However, you can go back in history and load the historical data here in the time and sales. And one thing that I do with traders in TradeStation is sometimes you may not understand why your order did not get filled at a particular price. And what I tell traders to do is like notate the exact time that your order went to the market, and then come here to the time and sales window and try to load all the trading activity that occurred at the time that you sent your order. That way it'll give you an understanding of where the price went, what were the possibilities of you getting filled, and so forth. So in this case, let's say for example that you entered a trade at 10 o'clock in the morning. Something that you can do is come here to the settings, go to symbol, and say, I want you to load a range of time from 10, actually let's do 9:59 and 50 seconds. Actually, let's do 00, so 1 minute, 9:59 to 10:01:00. So we're loading, this is 2 minutes of data. So from 9:59 all the way to 10:01. And if I click OK, no data available for this symbol. Let's go ahead and check back here. I'm going to go back to symbol. So we have, because this is a mistake, a user mistake. Come over here, we have to change from PM to AM. Of course, there's no trading at 10 PM. So I'm going to change this to AM and then try it again. I'm going to click OK, and this is going to load all the data. If I scroll all the way down, notice how the first trade that it's loaded here is 9:59 and 1 second. And it's going to load all the trading activity up until, let me scroll up again, all the way up until 10:01:00. So this will give you an idea. If your trade happened at exactly 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to scroll all the way to 10 o'clock. Here it is. There's one single trade that occurred exactly at 10 o'clock, 10:00:00. And then after that, you have 2 seconds later, you have a whole bunch of trades. Right here, there's a whole bunch of trades that occurred 1 second or 2 seconds after the fall of the hour. And then on the 59th second, we had about, 4 different trades. This will give you an understanding of where your order fell. Went to the market, what happened, what was the trading activity. This trade occurred at 76.47 and 5. This is 47 cents, and that's half of a penny. So there was an improvement in price, and that's what's being transmitted here in the time and sales. But you can see where the price went, if it went up, if it went down, how many shares were filled at each one of these prices. Because sometimes you may be looking at the market and saying, well, the market did trade at the price that I wanted. Why didn't I get filled? Well, maybe because there was only 100 or 200 shares at that specific price, and after that, your price was not hit any longer. So it does give you an understanding of what happened to the market during a specific time. So that's a way for you to filter the time and sales. Let me show you some other tools here in TradeStation. I'm going to go back here to a new workspace. Oh, if you find a condition, somebody's asking about conditions here. If you find conditions that you're not really sure what they mean, I mean, sometimes you see burst basket. I'm not sure. Somebody's asking about. Oh, Jill is in question, so you're correcting. We have burst basket, and sometimes you're going to find conditions that are not very clear on what they mean. What I suggest you do, and this is something that I do on my own use of the time and sales, because sometimes some conditions come up that I don't even understand what they are. If you're interested in knowing what those conditions are, go to the help menu up here, get help, and then click on platform trading. That'll open up the help files of the TradeStation platform. Okay, here they are. I'm just going to pull it up here. Now you can type it in. For example, if I go to the index and I type in condition, let's see, condition column. Yeah. See, I type in condition, this brings up the condition column, and then you have a link here, refer to the time and sales condition subtype reference. If I click on that other link, this is what explains what each one of those conditions are. So here we have burst basket, and all these definitions are exactly coming from the exchange. So these are official definitions of what that condition means. So again, you can use the index and just type in condition to find a document or a table that explains each one of these conditions. Let's go to the research window. If you're interested in fundamental data, I can come here to the apps, and there's a research window. Here it is. It's called research. I click on it, and it tells me that the information that you're about to see is not provided by TradeStation. So they're provided by independent and unaffiliated companies. All right, so that's fine. Every time you open up research, this comes up. So if you don't want to see it again, just check here and click OK. I believe our research fundamental data comes directly from Reuters. So it's not something that TradeStation compiles. We have a link to Reuters, and this is what it looks like. So you see at the very top, this is ExxonMobil, because that was the last symbol that we were looking at. But at the top left corner, you have a way of typing in a new symbol, and it'll give you fundamental data for that particular company. We have tabs at the top. These are the highlights. It gives you earnings information, dividend information, profitability for ExxonMobil. You also see the financial strength. And if I go over here to the profile, it just keeps on giving you information about ExxonMobil. We have evaluation, profitability, capitalization, their quarterly results, the financial strength. Let me go back. And the industry comparisons, where it takes ExxonMobil and compares it to the industry, and it compares it to the S&P 500, so you can have a way of comparing the performance of this particular company to the market overall. But here, this is just a quick way for you to get some fundamental data on one of the companies and see the overall valuation of it. Here, I can go to once you're here, I can go to data, and notice that you have all these different links that will take you to Yahoo Finance. So all these links that you see here under the data button are links that will take you directly to Yahoo Finance. There's no reason for you to exit out of TradeStation if you want to see what Yahoo Finance says about any of these links. Let's say that you want to do insider transactions. I'm going to click here on insider transactions, and you're going to see how, okay, that loads up. Here's ExxonMobil. It gives us the income statement. So these are links that will provide you additional information on ExxonMobil. And again, it's provided by Yahoo Finance. If I go to here and I say, show me competitors. Here are the key executives. Here's the description of the company, and so forth. So take a look at all the different links that are there. This is a quick way for you to keep an eye on the markets and see what other finance information providers like Yahoo are saying about a particular company. The same happens here for apps and the browser window. If you want to access the internet without having to exit TradeStation, we have a browser built into the platform that can be saved as a window inside of the workspace. I go to browser. All right, you can see that it opens up here. Let me just put it up here. So let's say that you like to take a look at CNN, money. So I'm going to go to money.cnn.com. And that's just going to load that website right here inside of my TradeStation. So sometimes that's convenient because it'll open up everything that you're taking a look at. And if there's different websites that you follow, you can just keep them open here inside TradeStation. One convenient thing is that you can save these browsers in a workspace, and every time that you log on to TradeStation, it'll automatically open these websites for you. Let's take the last few minutes of the class to talk about the TradeStation Ticker Bar. A lot of you may not be aware that there's a ticker bar that is built into the platform. In fact, when you install TradeStation, there's three applications that are installed on your computer. First of all is the platform that we have on the screen at the moment. But then there's another platform called the TradeStation Development Environment, which I talked about yesterday. And this is the one that allows you to create and modify easy language documents, create indicators, strategies. But there's a ticker bar as well that runs at the top or at the bottom of the screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm just going to go to your Start button in Windows where your installed applications are, and then find the TradeStation folder, open it up, and you're going to find something called the TradeStation Ticker Bar. Let me go ahead and open it. Now, by default, my ticker bar opened up on a separate monitor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it over here to this monitor so you can see it. Let me go ahead and drag it. Okay, everyone sees my TradeStation. Okay, and you see the ticker bar right here floating in the middle of the screen. By default, the ticker bar shows right there at the bottom. You see, when I bring it down, it's docked, and you can see it at the ticker bar at the bottom. But on the left-hand side, there's a little handle that I can click and drag, and you can see how it gets dragged right here in the middle of the screen. Now, a lot of things that you can do here. I know the font is very small, so let me go ahead and right-click. I'm going to create a new ticker. Let's suppose that I want to create a new quotes ticker. When I go to quotes, I can add my own symbols here. So let's say that I want to add Apple, Microsoft, Disney, Twitter, Walmart, Facebook, and that's it. And I'm just going to click on OK, and that's going to add another ticker right here on my screen. Okay, when you go to new ticker, you can create a quotes ticker, which is the one that I just created that you can add specific symbols to. You can also have a news ticker that will pretty much give you the headlines that you would usually find in the news window running across the screen for you. Or you can have a hot lists ticker, which is the default one that you see when you first open up the ticker bar. These two rows that I see at the top of my ticker bar, these are hot lists, percent gainers and percent losers. If I right click on the top one, I can say select hot list right here. And if I go there, I can say these are the percent gainers for 1 day. I can say give me the percent gainers for 30 days. And then click OK, and it'll load those symbols right here on my screen. You can do the same thing on the other one. If I right click, I can select another hot list and say, give me the symbols that are most traded. Let's say that I come over here and I say, go to volume. I'm going to choose the one that are most active based on volume, and I click OK. And you can see those symbols up here on that hot list ticker bar. Those are the hot list tickers. The one that is at the bottom is the one that I created, which is a quotes ticker bar. That's the one that you add the symbols manually of the ones you want to see. Now this ticker bar, as I said before, can be docked at the bottom or it can be docked at the very top, and you see those bars running at the top of your screen. You can change the direction of the scroll by just clicking and scrolling to the opposite side. Notice how all the three ticker bars are scrolling to the right hand side. If I click and I just drag to the left with a swift movement, then they all scroll to the right hand side. So in a nutshell, that's what the ticker bar does. I do encourage everyone to play around with the ticker bar functionality and that way get more familiarized with it. Thank you, everyone. I believe that's all the information that I have for you guys today. I want to appreciate the time that you all spent with me, and I apologize for all the technical difficulties that we had today. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and I hope to see you in a future event right here at TradeStation.